I realized something wasn't right the moment Cheryl from HR tapped on my office door and whispered, "Hey, you forgot to initial the new NDA." I hadn't. I never forget things. That's the reason this company functioned like a well-calibrated reactor instead of a fireworks factory in a hurricane. Still, I scribbled my initials, handed it back, and returned to decoding legal jargon into code triggers for the $300 million Macrovia merger. The one they bragged about like it was salvation at every meeting, though no one truly grasped it. 12 years. That's how long I'd been with Core Links. Not loudly, not glamorously. I wasn't part of the ping-pong crowd or those internal culture poets who posted manifestos on the wiki. I was the one ensuring the merger protocols passed SEC audits, building the silent bridge between Macrovia's ancient mainframes and our stitched-together back-end that had survived 5 CTOs. The boring work, the essential work, the kind no one appreciates until it explodes. And I'd be the one crawling in at 2 a.m. on Christmas Eve to patch it back together. That morning, 3 monitors glowed on my desk, 2 cold coffees stood beside them, and a note read, "Ask legal about Clause 9, scrawled in furious red. Behind me the office buzzed with its usual chaos. Project leads pacing like prophets, developers arguing if JSON had feelings, and one intern looping the same Kendrick verse until I nearly stapled his AirPods to the desk. And amid that circus, I sat in my corner, finalizing Macrovia's compliance review. My name, Amanda R. Delaney, was printed on the federal forms, third-party signatory, neutral witness, clearance liaison. I was the connector. No one else at Core Links had that authorization. No one else even wanted it. 6 months of bureaucratic drills and a psych evaluation just to qualify. It was like earning permission to whisper secrets to a sleeping god. They granted me that authority, then forgot I had it. I didn't mind. I liked being unseen. There's liberty in invisibility. You can build quietly while the loud ones drown in buzzwords. I didn't crave the spotlight. I only wanted clean systems, tight documentation, and uninterrupted coffee. Oh, and if you're still watching and haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that button, drop a like. 90% of you are ghosts. I see the analytics. Help our small team working behind the scenes to make these stories worth your time. All right, rant over. Anyway, only a few people really noticed me, the ones who understood how fragile everything was. Terry in legal. Joanna from Macrovia's compliance team, my old boss before he quit to find balance raising alpacas. Everyone else just knew me as Amanda from integration. Quiet, middle-aged, too formal, too caffeinated, too invisible. Then came Tate, but that's later. That morning, I logged into the clearance network to file my final report. The Macrovia deal was due to close in 72 hours. My signature was the final checkpoint. Everything synced perfectly. Months of work, back-end protocols, audit triggers, third-party reviews, cross-border data approvals. Until I froze. Something felt wrong. I couldn't name it yet. But I opened my contingency folder, double-checked the clause I'd marked months ago, a just-in-case measure. Because here's what no one at Core Links ever grasped. I didn't build those systems for them. I built them around them. I knew someday they'd trip over their own hubris and try to throw someone like me under the bus. And I wasn't going quietly, not without a detonator in one hand and a locked door behind me. They say when a company wants to screw you discreetly, it happens on a Wednesday morning with complimentary bagels. That's exactly how it started. The email hit at 9:13 a.m, all hands, mandatory. 10 sharp. Executive intro and org updates, don't miss it. Translation, someone new's in charge and heads will roll. Enter Mallory, the new COO. Mid-40s, sharp jaw, sharper suit, probably worth more than my car. He radiated startup cult charisma, the kind who thinks synergy is a love language and calls spreadsheets engines of disruption. He smiled too often, spoke too fast, called himself a fixer. From that first minute I knew, to him, we were already broken. He preached for 42 minutes about agility, modernization and tech debt decay. People clapped like he'd just parted the digital sea. I sipped my burnt coffee and fixed a dying data bridge no one else knew was collapsing. 3 hours later, Cheryl knocked again. This time, no papers. 2 HR staff trailed her, one with a clipboard, one with a stare like a blank spreadsheet. "Amanda, can we have a word?" Translation, brace yourself. They led me into a side room like I'd tested positive for rabies. No smiles, no water, just a manila envelope sliding across the table like a ransom note. Tate didn't even bother to appear. The letter inside was half corporate jargon, half recycled nonsense about shifting priorities and realigned vision. My position apparently no longer fit the grand strategy. I was still reading when clipboard lady said, "You'll need to hand in your badge and laptop before 3 p.m. The other one chimed in, "Security's been notified." I stood, turned toward the exit, and something caught my eye. On the reception counter, the one stacked with lost keys and dying succulents, lay a printed photo of my face. In thick red ink, someone had scrawled, "Do not let her in." Not employee, not Amanda. Just a warning label ready to laminate. It hit like a punch in the gut. I'd trained their last 3 CTOs. I'd kept our biggest merger alive with caffeine and duct tape. I'd missed birthdays, funerals, anniversaries just to babysit their fragile networks. And now they were treating me like a glitch in heels. I didn't cry. That would have been a gift. I just inhaled, walked back to my desk and packed a cardboard box the way people do in bad sitcoms. Except this wasn't fiction. My palms were icy. My heart drummed against my ribs. Everyone avoided eye contact like I was contagious. My assistant Kyle mouthed, "I'm so sorry," from across the room. I gave him a small nod and half a smile. Then I did 2 things. First, I handed him my badge. No speech, no tantrum, no "you'll regret this," just a quiet goodbye and the soft click of a lanyard hitting the fake wood desk. Second, I walked outside, sat in my car and unlocked my phone. I opened my secure vault, accessed the encrypted key store, and deleted 1 key. Not a password, not a file, but a unique entry tied to my personal clearance certificate used in every Macrovia integration handshake. Without that key, the system couldn't authenticate. The merger couldn't close. Without me, they were clutching a live grenade with no pin. I didn't grin. I didn't laugh. I didn't even sigh. I just drove away, hands steady, eyes forward. Because they thought they were advancing, but they just destroyed the only bridge they couldn't rebuild. I didn't take off my coat when I got home. I stood there, staring at my keys like they might vanish if I blinked. The house was silent. No Slack pings, no emails, no, "Hey, Amanda," quick question that meant 3 hours of unpaid labor. Just the ticking clock and the hum of the fridge. The box from my desk sat on the table like a dead pet. A mug that read, "I void warranties." A half-filled notebook of VPN scribbles and a tin of mints for midnight sugar crashes. Everything felt foreign now, like I'd fallen out of orbit into a diorama of burnout. I went to the hallway closet, past the coats, behind the broken printer I swore I'd fix, sat an old fireproof file box. I dragged it out, clicked the latches, and flipped through folders labelled in my handwriting. Legal, clearance, protocols, red flag. Then I pulled the one marked contingency. I'd prepared it 2 years earlier, not out of paranoia, but attention. You can't sit through a year of merger meetings listening to execs lie about redundancy planning and not plan for the moment they decide you're replaceable. The folder was thick, too thick for someone allegedly obsolete. I skimmed past org charts, architecture diagrams, SEC memos, until I found it. The original Macrovia protocol checklist. My name stamped on every page. Certified third-party liaison, neutral clearance authority. I turned to the last section. Clause 9C. Termination of named liaison without formal substitution and recertification nullifies compliance status and suspends acquisition legality. In plain English, fire me without replacing me, and your 300 million merger becomes an expensive paperweight. No, Amanda, no deal. I sat slowly, the paper's edge biting my palms. I'd never told anyone about that clause. No one asked. Most hadn't even read the merger documents. They just handed me coffee and assumed I'd keep the train moving while they posed for LinkedIn. Not anymore. I wasn't crying. That part of me froze back in HR when I saw my photo taped like a wanted poster. This wasn't grief. It was precision. They hadn't fired me. They detonated their own timeline. And the worst part? They didn't know it yet. Right now, they were probably in a conference room high-fiving over my transition and printing a new org chart with Tate's smug grin at the top. I flipped to the final sign-off line. My signature was supposed to go there. It never would. The checklist wasn't decoration. It was federal. It linked to compliance networks, privacy acknowledgements, international banking clearances. Every buried minefield legal swore would never detonate as long as I stayed. Oops. I leaned back, let the paper rest in my lap, and exhaled. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't sabotage. It was engineering. Remove the keystone, the arch collapses. Simple physics. I reached for my old laptop from the closet, powered it up, and opened the encrypted drive I hadn't touched in 6 months. Inside were backups, logs, registry snapshots, every liaison protocol, and handshake key. Everything they'd now scrambled to rebuild from scratch with some guy named Dustin from IT, who still couldn't find the right VPN on his 3rd day. I checked the logs again. The deletion I'd made earlier from my phone had already propagated to the federal handshake server. Time-stamped, locked, irreversible. They had no clue yet, but that was about to change. I took a sip of cold coffee from my office mug. By tomorrow, Macrovia would notice the missing link, and then the screaming would start. The call itself lasted under 4 minutes. No rehearsal, no pacing around the kitchen, no bullet points. Just me at the dining table, the merger folder open beside a stale bowl of cereal, dialing a number I knew by heart. Macrovia Compliance, Greg Taylor speaking. His voice was far too cheerful for a man standing over a $300 million sinkhole. "Hi, Greg," I said evenly. "This is Amanda Delaney." There was a pause. The sound of papers rustling, a mouse click. "Oh, hey, I was just reviewing your checklist. We were expecting your final sign-off this week. Are you calling to confirm it's submitted?" I leaned back, watching sunlight stretch across the carpet like nothing in the world was collapsing. "Not exactly. Just wanted to check the process flow. Any updates on your end before I proceed?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Wait, you haven't submitted it?" "No." "Okay, but why?" His tone shifted. The smile dropped. "They terminated me yesterday." The silence was immediate, airless. "I'm sorry. What?" "No worries," I said lightly. "Just thought you'd want to know before moving forward. If you need formal notice, my attorney can provide it." I could hear him flipping through papers, the panic building in his breathing. "They fired you, but you're the named liaison. Your ID is embedded in the acquisition system. All compliance keys are tied to your credentials. We can't just—" "That's correct," I said. "You can't." I let the silence breathe. "I'll send the notice shortly. Wouldn't want confusion." Then I hung up. No theatrics, just a clean incision right through the spine of their timeline. Next call was to my lawyer. Daniel didn't even ask why until he was 3 paragraphs into the termination letter. By then, he was already typing a 2-line statement for Macrovia's legal team. Amanda Delaney no longer represents CoreLink Systems in any formal or advisory capacity, effective immediately. The instant they received it, the gears jammed. Macrovia froze all final signatures, halted the merger account, suspended escrow releases. 5 minutes later, my system pinged. "Secure handshake attempt failed. Key mismatch." "Yeah, that'll keep happening." Then I did something small, maybe petty. I opened my phone and texted Kyle, my old assistant. "Good kid. Still green, still awkward, but sharp enough to set sense when the floor starts cracking." Open quote. They might want to check clause 9C. Just a thought. Hope you're okay. No emoji. No sign-off. Just that. Close quote. 3 minutes later, open quote. "What the hell is clause 9C? Everyone's freaking out. Did you hear something? I didn't answer." Let him sweat. It wasn't cruelty. It was a lesson. The kind you only learn when the ice beneath you starts splitting and the lifeboats are already gone. Close quote. I sat back, staring out the window. The sun was sliding behind the neighbour's roof, and across the street, someone still had Christmas lights blinking like a nervous tick. It was March. I didn't feel smug, just weightless, like the ground had shifted and I'd finally landed where I belonged. They hadn't just handed me leverage. They'd wrapped it neatly and mailed it to my front door. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need revenge. I was the consequence. And soon, they'd learn the price of cutting loose the foundation and pretending the house won't fall. By Friday morning, the storm was directly over CoreLink's headquarters, and nobody brought an umbrella. The merger signing was set for 10 a.m. The full circus. Polished shoes, power ties, legal pads lined up like dominoes. Macrovia's execs were supposed to stroll in, beam for the cameras, and sign papers they'd already rehearsed 100 times. But 10 came and went. No Macrovia, no delegation, no chief legal officer. Just silence thick enough to choke on. At 10:12, Tate stood at the head of the conference room, one hand jammed in his pocket, the other nervously clicking a Sharpie like it might turn into a wand. Well, he said finally, with a forced grin, you know how these legacy firms are. Slow, paper-heavy. We'll fix it internally. He repeated that last part like a prayer. We'll fix it internally, except the problem was already internal. 3 floors down, whispers had started. About Clause 9C. Apparently, Kyle couldn't keep quiet. Bless his anxious Gen Z conscience. He'd mentioned it to a junior analyst who went spelunking through the company's dusty shared drive, found an old copy of the original merger draft I'd uploaded months earlier, and promptly sent a screenshot to a friend in legal. By 11:37, the news was on Slack. By noon, panic had taken hold. The general counsel stormed out of his office, shouting for someone to locate the original signatory logs. HR was in full meltdown. Compliance froze 3 pending invoices. Legal began questioning who authorized Amanda's termination. The merger lead called Macrovia directly and got a polite but pointed response. We are currently reviewing internal documentation irregularities. Please stand by. Corporate code for you messed up and we aren't cleaning it up. At 10:04 p.m. my phone rang. Locked number, declined. Again, Core Link CFO direct, declined. Third time went to voicemail, let ring. He sounded like a man struggling not to unravel. Amanda, hi! Look, I know this isn't ideal, but there was a hiccup with the signing today. Could we connect briefly to clarify some compliance chain details? Nothing major, dotting I's, crossing T's. Call me. I played it twice, then deleted it. They thought it was a hiccup. They didn't understand. This wasn't a hiccup. It was a lung collapse. I opened my laptop and checked the Federal Liaison Registry again. My name was still listed. No substitution filed, no recertification requested, no alternate key in place. Without that key, Macrovia's automated signature sequence could not pass the compliance gate. No handshake, no merger, no exceptions. The more they panicked, the calmer I became. Watching a fire you didn't ignite but removed the smoke alarm batteries from. Quiet authority doesn't ask for applause, it simply exists, undeniable and irreversible. I got a text from Kyle. They're losing it. Legal blames IT. IT blames legal. Tate calls it a temporary credentialing bug. Insane. Then, did you do this? I sent a single emoji, no explanation. I made a grilled cheese, watched Judge Judy reruns, answered a few emails for my consulting gig I'd kept on the side for 6 months, just in case. At 4 p.m, a mass calendar invite went out. Emergency all hands. 4:30 p.m, conference room alpha. Subject, realignment and roadmap discussion. Damage control translation. The room would soon fill with buzzwords and panic sweat. Me? I wasn't on the guest list. I watched quiet, steady, letting the ripples spread. At 9:06 a.m. Monday, the email landed. Cold. Bureaucratic. Subject, pending merger. Immediate compliance review required. The body colder? To whom it may concern, due to the unplanned termination of the listed third-party liaison without replacement, Macrovia Group is formally pausing all executional aspects of the acquisition. Compliance obligations under sections 4.7 and 9C remain unmet until resolution. Transaction is suspended indefinitely. 4 lines. No room for spin. CFO's dropped coffee. HR reps dry heaved into recycling bins. Me? I sat at my kitchen table in sweatpants pouring almond milk over cereal, watching it unfold in real time. LinkedIn buzzed. Finance blogs caught wind. A Macrovia post read, "Simply always verify your bridges before burning them." Couldn't have written it better. Daniel, my lawyer, sent the final documentation 30 minutes later. Notarized, signed in blue ink, priority mail, digital confirmation. The letter short, lethal. Miss Amanda Delaney has no further professional, contractual or advisory obligations to Core Link Systems, effective retroactive to termination date. All compliance duties tied to the Macrovia transaction ceased. Daniel added a flourish on proprietary knowledge and third-party vendor independence. I hadn't asked, but he knew. The moment it hit Macrovia's inbox, the door slammed shut. Legally, structurally, practically, they couldn't hire a replacement and continue. The deal wasn't a PDF. It was a hand-stitched parachute, and I'd sewn the cords. They were falling, no drag, no recovery. Later that afternoon, I opened a tab and registered Quiet Seal LLC. 11 minutes later, complete. Registered agent, bank account pending. Amanda Delaney was no longer an employee. She was now an entity, a vendor, a firewall, with a mailing address and licensing clause. My phone stayed quiet, no calls from the CFO, no frantic texts from Kyle. But I could feel the tremors of their panic from 3 zip codes away. Rumors started. Did Amanda have side equity? Build the original data bridge? Function as a vendor all along? No, but they wanted to believe it. Otherwise, they had to confront the truth. A salaried ghost had been the keystone holding their castle upright. Funny how people rewrite history when the present burns. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. 2 words, well played. No name, no signature. Probably someone from legal, maybe Macrovia's Skio, or one of the silent observers who watched everything from the shadows. I didn't reply. I was done playing. This wasn't a game anymore. It was architecture. Clean lines, deliberate collapse, an old building razed not with explosives but with precision. 1 screw removed, 1 key store revoked, a signature never written. The betrayal didn't sting. That chapter was closed. I felt focused, unburdened, clear. Downtown Tate was probably drenched in sweat, staring at a glass conference room while someone pointed at Clause 9C projected like a killer's manifesto. Meanwhile, I was drafting a tagline for my LLC, Quiet Seal LLC, compliance without compromise. Had a nice ring. Finally, someone would remember who built the bridge. It began with a whisper in the elevator. By mid-morning, the panic had metastasized into a board-wide frenzy. A red-line document from Macrovia's legal team leaked. Termination of Amanda Delaney voids acquisition standing. The phrase ricocheted through the halls like a live grenade. Directors sat bolt upright. Phones rang non-stop. Lawyers barked over each other. PR scrambled to prepare contingency statements in case the press caught wind. They did. A finance blog posted, unnamed Ohio-based tech firm loses key compliance asset mid-merger. Deal in limbo. $300 million on the line. Call links. Wasn't named. It didn't matter. Inside the building, the air turned cold. The CFO called. No pleasantries. His voice high, cracking like a balloon. Amanda, I swear this is your fault. You're holding us hostage. Do you understand what you've done? This could kill the company. You can't just walk away. I didn't answer. Just watched the phone buzz on the table. Then voicemail. Let it roll. His tone changed, pleading, Amanda, we're willing to be flexible. Please call me. Macrovia won't accept anyone else. Keep saying material personnel discrepancy and legal insists you weren't replaced. It's a technicality, right? We can fix it. Please talk to me. Click. I watched the waveform load and deleted it. It wasn't a technicality. It was the entire structure. They hadn't removed a cog. They'd ignited the foundation and acted surprised when the roof collapsed. Macrovia wouldn't budge. No workarounds. No acting liaison. No emergency substitutions. Their final response, 3 lines. We do not accept interim authorization under Clause 9C. Acquisition terms voided. Contract suspended. Tate tried to spin it in a meeting. We'll rebuild the trust, whatever that meant. Someone in legal laughed. Finance lead looked ready to cry. Then they made a mistake. They thought the old-fashioned method could save it. Charm, pressure, in-person theatrics. So someone came to my house. Late afternoon, grey Lexus across the driveway. A man in a blazer stepped out, holding a manila envelope and the kind of hope that smelled like desperation. He rang the bell. Waited. Rang again. I stayed inside, lights off, sitting at the kitchen table with tea, jazz humming softly, flipping through licensing terms for a new client inquiry that had hit Quiet Seal's inbox earlier. He knocked. I didn't move. Watched him on the doorbell cam pacing, checking his phone, muttering. Finally, he left the envelope wedged in the screen door, got back in the car. I let it sit until the wind blew it away. I didn't need to open it. I already knew its contents. Apologies, vague offers, hints at reinstatement. They still thought this was about a job. They didn't realize I'd already built a new world from the pieces they discarded. This wasn't vengeance. It wasn't a grudge. It was done. Done letting people talk over me while I kept infrastructure from collapsing. Done translating mistakes into code fixes. Done Sherpaing a summit I was never invited to celebrate. So when they came knocking, I didn't flinch. I sipped my tea, watched the sky darken, and let the storm swirl outside a door that would never open again. By Tuesday morning, the tone inside Core Links had shifted from damage control to full-blown cardiac arrest. The board called an emergency session. No PowerPoints, no breakfast trays, just red faces and clashing egos. The type of meeting where people talk over each other so loudly you forget there's a fire because all smoke alarms had been ripped out during a modernization sprint. Tate sat at the head of the table like a drowned possum in a tailored suit, swagger gone. Voice, once a confident drone of startup nonsense, cracked like he'd swallowed a pine cone. He began, "I think we may have underestimated the depth of Amanda's legacy role," and didn't get 6 syllables further before the lead investor interjected. "No name, no signature, probably someone from legal, maybe Macrovia's COO, or one of the ghosts who silently observed everything from the wings." I didn't reply. The game was over. This wasn't play. It was architecture, precise, deliberate collapse, clean lines. An old building dismantled, not with dynamite, but with surgical exactness. One screw removed, one key store revoked, a signature never penned. The betrayal didn't sting. That chapter was closed. I felt unburdened, sharp, focused. Downtown Tate was likely drenched in sweat, watching Clause 9C projected like a serial killer's note, while I drafted a tagline for quiet Seal LLC, compliance without compromise. It had a satisfying ring. At last someone would remember who built the bridge. The whisper started in the elevator. By mid-morning, board-wide panic metastasized. A red line from Macrovia's legal leaked. Termination of Amanda Delaney voids acquisition standing. The phrase ricocheted like a live grenade. Directors snapped upright. Phones rang incessantly. Lawyers barked over each other. PR scrambled contingency statements in case it hit the press, which it did. A finance blog posted, "Unnamed Ohio-based tech firm loses key compliance asset mid-merger, $300 million deal in limbo." Core Links wasn't named, but it didn't matter. The air inside was ice. CFO called. No pleasantries. Voice high, cracking like a balloon. "Amanda, I swear this is your fault. You're holding us hostage. Do you understand the position you've put us in? This could kill the company. You can't just walk away." I didn't answer, just stared at the phone as it buzzed, rattled, then stopped. Voicemail. I let it roll, now pleading, "Amanda, we'll be flexible. Please call me. Macrovia won't accept anyone else. It's a technicality, right? We can fix it. Just talk to me." Click. I watched the waveform load, then deleted it. Not a technicality. The entire structure. They hadn't removed a cog. They'd set fire to the foundation and acted surprised when the roof collapsed. Macrovia wouldn't budge. No liaison, no workaround, no emergency substitution. Final response, 3 lines. "We do not accept interim authorization under Clause 9C. Acquisition terms voided. Contract suspended." Tate tried spinning it in a meeting. "We'll rebuild the trust," whatever that meant. Someone in legal laughed. Finance lead looked ready to cry. Then they made a mistake, thinking charm, pressure and theatrics could save it. So someone came to my house, late afternoon, grey Lexus across the driveway, with man in blazer holding manila envelope, hope reeking of desperation. Ring, wait, ring again. I stayed inside, lights off, tea in hand, jazz humming softly, flipping licensing terms for a client inquiry that hit Quiet Seal's inbox that morning. He knocked. I didn't move. Watched him on the doorbell cam pacing, checking his phone, muttering. Eventually, he left the envelope wedged in the screen door and returned to his car. I let the wind take it. I didn't need to open it. I already knew. Apologies, vague offers, hints of reinstatement. They still thought it was about a job. They didn't realize I'd already built a new world from the pieces they discarded. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't a grudge. It was done. Done letting people talk over me while I preserved their infrastructure. Done translating mistakes into code fixes. Done sherpering a summit I never got to celebrate. When they knocked, I didn't flinch. I sipped my tea, watched the sky darken, let the storm swirl behind a door that would never open again. By Tuesday, Core Links had moved from damage control to full-blown cardiac arrest. Emergency board session. No PowerPoints, no breakfast, just red faces and clashing egos. Conversations so loud you forgot there was a fire. Smoke alarms removed in a modernization sprint. Tate at the head like a drowned possum in a tailored suit. Swagger gone. Voice, once confident startup nonsense, cracked like a pine cone. He began, "I think we may have underestimated the depth of Amanda's legacy role," and didn't get 6 syllables further before the lead investor interrupted. Carl, wiry, hawk-eyed, gravel-voiced in litigation mode, slammed a folder, leaned in. "Who authorized termination without transition planning?" Dead silence. GC stared at shoes. CFO went pale. A board member coughed into her sleeve as if to protect herself. Tate tried again. Group consensus, performance metrics. Carl raised a hand. No more buzzwords. 300 million deal is dead. Macrovia won't re-engage without Amanda's credentials. You didn't fire a developer, you severed a compliance artery. Who signed off? Footage did the talking. PR leaked a security still. My photo taped to the front desk. Red marker scrawl. Do not let her back. LinkedIn caption. How you treat your veterans tells us everything. It exploded. Former employees chimed in. Clients screenshotted. Macrovia CCO liked it, sending legal into a tailspin. Someone printed it for the boardroom. No one wanted to look. No one dared discard it. That afternoon, Tate sent a formal offer via HR, double salary, title bump, enhanced authority. Hit my lawyer's inbox like a Hail Mary wrapped in tinsel. Daniel forwarded it to me. Ghost them or reply? I said reply. His note surgical. Miss Delaney appreciates your revised offer. She no longer holds employee status at CoreLink Systems. Should you wish to re-engage her expertise, Seal LLC is available for licensing. Market rates apply. Retainer required. Engagement subject to availability. Short, precise, no drama, no badge, no politics, no tape. That evening, CoreLink's internal chat channels exploded. Offer leaked. Someone pasted the response in a staff thread titled Emergency Staffing Update. Circulated faster than any memo Tate ever wrote. Narrative flipped. Those who barely looked at me now whispered my name like legend. Kyle texted, "You really said double it and walked away?" I didn't reply. I hadn't burned the bridge. I'd turned it into a toll road. They could pay the fare or watch the wreckage from shore. It ended not with press release, but a whimper. Thursday morning, Macrovia officially pulled out. Statement at 7:13 a.m. Due to unresolvable compliance gaps and personnel discrepancies, Macrovia Group has terminated its acquisition proceedings with CoreLink Systems. We wish all parties well. 4 sentences, cold, surgical, bullet in a silk envelope. By 9 a.m, CoreLink stock in freefall. 300 million vanished. By noon, finance leaked investor call transcript. Brutal. Lead investor screamed. GC deflected. Tate left mid-call. CFO resigned via webcast. Hollowed out, spouting the usual about family and opportunity. I never returned to the building. Not for couriers, not for the interim CTO's coffee request, but I answered the courier Friday morning, square velvet box, no sender, gold seal I recognized from Macrovia executives. Inside, note, neat handwriting, next time they'll know who built the bridge. RM CEO Macrovia Group, no pitch, no ask, just recognition. Landed like a gavel, placed it on my shelf between merger binders and Quiet Seal operating agreement. Back to my home office, no burnt coffee. No recycled ambition, pine scent control, 3 screens lit, none connected to Slack, none tied to anyone who could call me legacy. Seal LLC had signed a third client, CoreLinks. They didn't want to, but they needed to license one of my old integrations. Same infrastructure once deemed obsolete. Now critical. I controlled the keys, charged 4x original rate, no complaints. They knew. Sun spilling through blinds, I wrapped fingers around warm coffee, watching light catch the velvet box. Quiet morning, no meetings, no fire drills, clarity. Phone buzzed, new email, subject, respectfully requesting your terms. I smiled, sipped slowly, let it linger. Let the world run. I wasn't chasing, I was the terms.